Hi, I'm Gus.
I'm Jake, and this is our submission for the 2023 Pygames Hackathon Cram Crawl. Cram Crawl sees you guiding Hannah, a high school student, through a randomly generated school just before her test. The challenge is in the 5-minute timer to do so, and hall monitors thwarting your passing grade at every corner. This is Gus's first time working on a game in Python using Pygame, and my first time creating pixel art assets. We start in our homeroom, and Mr. Flip introduces us to our problem. The test is just about to start, and we did not study. Hannah slips out of class, but hall monitors are going to be hot on our tail. We have 3 different answers to find for the 3 core subjects, and also 2 buffs that will be found throughout the randomly generated school. They will stop you from getting stopped by the hall monitors like that. We wanted everything to have a retro feel, as you can see with the skip button and our pause menu. Everything should feel like a VCR, or our 2 main influences for the game, MS-DOS games and Hotline Miami. We look to both of those for a lot of influence and assistance when we were struggling. If you couldn't tell, all of the music and assets were created by us, and we learned how to work with our tools for Pygame, and for the pixel art I used Sprite, all within the time frame. Here's our history class. The hall monitors will ramp up in difficulty with every answer you get, which is why it is really helpful to find the buffs during your playthrough.
Get back to class, get back to class, get back to class.
The teachers send out range projectiles, which also ramp up in difficulty. For multiple playthroughs, there are skip buttons to not make the dialogue so frustrating in our already frustrating game. Those were our 2 points we started with. We were thinking, how are we going to approach this game jam? And we wanted to fit right into challenging and nostalgic. And I think we did quite well for that. Here's the lunch tray. It lets you block attacks. Not that I did it there. I'm good at making games, not good at exhibiting skill within them. For the splash arts and the main character Hannah, I got a lot of influences from Ghost in the Shell, but all of the art is made by me. Except for the dining tray, that's by Gus, and the animation for blocking. Here's the ruler. We have the 2 buffs, so this is a really good run. Later in our video, Gus is going to explain just how he did all of the random generation for the school. That's why we decided to call our game Cram Crawl. Cram for the studying style that Hannah is exhibiting right now, and Crawl like dungeon crawl because a lot of the generation is influenced by NetHack and similar games from the time, like Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup.
Get back to class.
It's okay. We're gonna do okay. Okay. Really challenging game. That's how we planned to make the playtime lengthy, even if you have only 5 minutes to beat the game. Because if you're anything like me, it will take more than 5 minutes to beat the game. It's really risky to go for games
Get back to class.
in this game, go for the answers first. And if you don't figure that out soon enough, is able to give you hints towards what you should try next. That one was just embarrassing. This is my first game jam actually, so it's really a privilege to try this out with Pygames, which is one of the first game dev programs I worked with. So go Microsoft for organizing this.
Get back to class. Get back to class.
Alright. That's a good example of the standard gameplay run through. And now I'll show you the end game if you complete all the objectives.
So this is what a winning run of the gameplay would look like. And you may notice that I am sweating as hard as I possibly can because this game is hard.
Get back to class. 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 Get back to class.
And while I talk about some of the code, here is a compilation of me failing. So our biggest challenge in terms of programming was the randomized map generation and just like 2D collision in total. The solution we came up for that was a bunch of individual segments, each room and each hallway segment, that you could sort of piece together recursively starting from a base point. And then once the hallways reached a certain depth, it would place the rooms around the edges. And if it didn't have space for them, it would regenerate. The collisions I did using a second map for each room and hallway that had black where you couldn't walk and white where you could walk, which was a very performant way of checking collision because you just had to check a single point on a bitmap for every position you were trying to move into. And that ended up working really well. And then the second biggest issue we had was trying to get enemy line of sight to work, to where enemies would only attack you if they could see you. But with the previously mentioned like bitmap collision, that was sort of hard. So the solution I came up with for that was to check endpoints along a line between the enemy and you. If any of those points along that line returned that it was not walkable, then line of sight would be broken. And that ended up being surprisingly performant. The whole game itself actually turned out to be surprisingly performant as well, with it easily getting up to 400 FPS when we let it go all the way. So I'm very proud of that.